Hi everyone. This week we're going to explore a new topic. We're going to explore the principle of figure ground and look at how we can use it to define objects. First, we need to ask, how do we define an object? Probably the most obvious way of defining an object is with the element of line. If you were asked to draw a picture of something, you would do it with lines. In the picture on the right, we can see a hand where lines define the object. There is no shading, but we can still make out what the object is. The next major way that we can define an object is with the element of value. This is something that we've explored in the last two projects with shading. Shading can be done with hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and blending, as we've seen. The one thing that element of value uses is light. It uses a light source which then has shadows which define the object. In the picture on the right, you can see a sphere. There are no obvious lines in this image, but we can make out the shape and form of it because of the shading and values that we can see in it. A third way that we can define an object is with the element of shape. This is something that we've been exploring in our last project, the object in detail. The element of shape defines an object when they are combined. In the images on the right, you see different objects depicted with a combination of shapes. There are no lines, but you can still make out what is depicted. This is where the principle of figure ground comes in. When we use the element of shape to define an object, the figure ground helps us to perceive an image by distinguishing an object from the background. The images below are something that you might be familiar with. On the left, we see a wine glass because the black part is seen as the object, being the positive. On the right, that middle part is the negative, meaning it is the background, and so we end up seeing two faces. When using figure ground to create an image, rather than perceiving multiple individual parts, positive and negative space combine to form our perception of a single image. Essentially, our mind fills in the gaps, the areas where we do not see lines or anything, such as in this image of this truck. There are certain parts of this image that we do not see the full form, but because of the positive areas, the black areas, we're able to fill in the gaps, the areas that we can't see. And that is what we are going to do in this next project. We're going to create an image using figure ground, like this. For this project, you have two options. The first option is you can do it by hand using black marker on the tracing paper that I sent home, which you would overlay over an image that you would of an object that you would choose. The second option is to do it digitally using a drawing app like Procreate or Sketches School on the iPad. This, though, would require probably an Apple Pencil or some other type of stylus to be effective. Whichever method you choose to use, the steps are the same. You need to start by finding an image of an object that you'd like to turn into a figure ground. I chose this toy truck. Once you've selected your image, you'll need to, if you're doing it by hand, you'll need to print it out and put it underneath the tracing paper. Or if you're using it on the iPad, you'll need to import it into the drawing app and use it as an underlay. And put a different layer so that when you draw, you're not drawing right on the image, but on a different layer. So that then later on you can turn off the image. To create this figure ground, you need to look at the image and try to figure out what should be the white area or the negative, and what areas should be the positive or black areas. There is no shading and there is no lines. There's only black and white. To do this, if you put the image, if you're doing it by hand and you put the image underneath the tracing paper, it will make the image more faint. And then if you squint your eyes, you can kind of pick out the dark areas and choose to color those dark areas in with black. You may want to practice this. If you're doing it on the iPad, if you have the big capability of um, lightening the image so that it's more faint, that would be very helpful. But you can also just squint at the image and try to pick out the dark areas versus the light areas. And the dark areas you color in black, and the light areas you just leave white. Once you're done drawing your figure ground, you can remove the image from underneath the tracing paper if you're doing it by hand, or you can turn off the image layer in your drawing app, and then you'll be able to see your figure ground. You may also find that you need to add more areas or delete certain things from your image, but that is the process that you need to go back and forth in. So there you have it. Go ahead and get started on this. I'd like you to attempt to do 2 different drawings for this project. Here are 2 different examples that I did. See what you can do. If you have questions, don't be afraid to message me and with an image of what you've created to see if you're going in the right direction. On Wednesday, I'd like you to send me what you have so that I can review and give you some feedback. And then on Friday, that will be when I'd like you to try to have your drawings finished by. All right, go ahead and get started.